All right, I guess we probably would like to have some lights this evening to get this started. And welcome. We definitely have some bright lights tonight. Let's go ahead and hop right in because I'm running about a minute late tonight. Welcome to Freestyle Game Dev. As usual, we hang out twice a week, Sundays and Wednesdays, Sunday nights and Wednesday mornings. We are here just as a Q&A AMA. Quick recap. Currently I work at Riot Games. I'll hang out here for an hour, answer any questions. I didn't see any questions in the previous chats. In the absence of questions or people who are here, we're working on my own game as just kind of a good testing ground for examples and things like that. And specifically right now, we're working on AI in Unreal Engine 4. So I don't see anybody with any questions, and what that means is that we're gonna hop straight into Unreal, which I have been working on a bunch of different things, but also we are in a little bit of a broken state. Just trying to cool that light off a little bit. All right, we'll figure out the lighting later. Anyways, okay, so what do I mean by broken state? There's a couple things that are going on here. What happened was I made a bunch of changes. Let me see if I can show you what we're looking at here. So you'll notice that now when the enemies spawn in, they run to pick up the closest weapon. Now, interestingly enough, when he picks up a grenade, it doesn't actually do anything because they don't know how to throw grenades yet. We'll figure that out later, but for now he's gonna go pick up the pistol because it should be the closest thing to him. And you'll notice the color change. So the color change is one of the new things we added in just so that we can quickly and easily tell the difference between our enemies. So we know visually who is melee and who's not. So when this dude spawns in, the next person, he'll just come in melee and run towards me. And he's supposed to start fighting. But this is where I mentioned things are broken. One thing I did temporarily is I disabled the fight because I needed to be able... He can't actually punch right now. I took his ability away. And the reason I did that is because I'm trying to debug this thing... Ooh, whoops. This thing that's happening right now. Where he's constantly moving in place. The reason this happened is because I was trying to clean up the actual blueprint, and I was trying to add in the ability for them to have an overall prevailing strategy. And in so doing, I broke a bunch of stuff. So let's see if... So that's what we're working on. We're trying to fix all that stuff that I broke. So let's take a look at this and see if we can't fix it. I also cleaned up a bunch of stuff about like how material changes happened. I moved all of that stuff into the material manager, and then also I cleaned up a bunch of stuff on the way that the ragdoll stuff worked. Anyways, a lot to clean up in a lot of other places as well. All right, so what's happening here is what I was trying to do was I was trying to add in this strategized stuff. And when I did that, I realized that one of the things I wanted them to be able to do was move to a location, right? It makes sense. That's what we were doing before. However, the problem is that as they were moving to the location, there were multiple locations that were being set. We had an attack position, we had a last known position, we had all these things. And so I was thinking to myself, why do I have all of these locations that people are going to? Why not just have them all go to move to location? And so that was the change that I was trying to make. And in so doing, that's when I broke everything. And so that's why we're in the process of having to fix it now. And specifically what is happening is we come in here. All right, so let's see. Let's just trace this in our minds. We're gonna do a bunch of strategizing. That's fine. And then we're going to find weapons if there are any. And in the find weapons, let's bring this over here so you all can see it. I also want to make sure that this is full screen. It is. Okay, cool. So we're in the, this is update AI status. I clicked on the wrong one. We want find weapons. All right, so find weapons is kind of what we expect. Here's our controller, and it comes in, it looks for, oh, this was the other thing that was happening. Finding weapons wasn't looking around the actual character, it was just looking in some random point. We happened to be getting lucky because our map is at the origin, so it was looking around the origin, so it was finding. But this will actually try to find weapons now that's actually around our enemy, which is good. So it goes ahead and finds all of our equips. If I increased the distance to weapons to be ridiculous to make sure they could get to them for now. And then if it's got it, it finds location, the distance, and it sets the move to location, right? This is our first use of the move to location. And I also need to make sure I have the chat up to make sure that I can see if anybody has questions, which we don't. And also let me just double check. There are no questions. All right, cool. We are still good to go. All right, so that's our first use of the move to location, and that is in the find weapons. So we find our weapons, great, and then we move to that move to location. Then, you know, there's the usual stuff of telling friends, and now we get into the whole melee versus ranged and stuff. And so what I was doing was I was getting rid of all the weapons in the map so that they would just only melee, dealing with one thing at a time, trying to simplify this as much as possible. All right, and then what's going to happen is when they come in here, he's going to come in, he's going to update our status, tell friends, site, etc., sets our gate. All right, here's our next use. We're going to update our current attack position, and this is one of the first ones where I started monkeying with it, where it was actually using attack position. And I thought, why is it using attack position? And so why not use move to? I can't remember why I had two. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to debug this so it gets our location. And this was another one that wasn't looking around the character. So anyways, we're going to get our location. We're going to make an array out of something. Controlled pawn. All right, anyways, we're going to check to see if we're ranged, which we're not. So our first ring, remember we have rings around our characters, is going to be we're going to set our ring start index, and then the local ring index is going to be our ring start index. And then we're going to start with our first ring, going to the last ring, and as we go through, we're going to get the last enemy location. So this should be getting the last location around an enemy, which should be the hero character. And if we want to double check that, let's just draw a debug sphere, because the enemy of the enemy is the hero in this case. See what I did there? That was awesome. Anyways, we're gonna draw a debug sphere, and we'll make it green let's make it white. All right, and the location is going to be the last known location. Duration is going to be, let's make it 2 and a thickness of 1. So this will draw a white sphere where it's looking around. That's great. That's where the ring should be drawing around. Then the ring radius is going to be based on the index. So the first ring radius is of 1, and we're going to look inside of the ring radius to see if there's enemies. But we don't okay, so this may be our first problem. So if our ring radius is 1 here, that's the start of the ring, right? So what that means is the inner circle is not being counted. Well, no, actually, it means the inner circle is being counted, and so as a result, we're not actually looking at who's in the actual ring itself. We're looking who's inside the circle defined by the ring. So that's interesting. Then we're going to find who's in there, and if that length is greater than the max per ring times the current ring, then we're going to increment our ring index and go to the next ring. So this is just basically counting how many enemies are within that. That's semi-okay. And then once that's done, we're going to come down here and we're going to do some stuff. This is one of my first concerns, but I want to think about this first part for a second. Let's make the radius of that white sphere the radius of the sphere that we're looking in. Let's just see what this looks like. Okay. All right. So he should see me. And all right. So that is the radius that he's looking in of the first ring. Interesting. And he's standing within it, and he's a melee dude, so that's pretty good. Like this would put him in range for most melee attacks, which is good, right? I'm okay with that. That's semi-okay. Okay, so then he comes in, and then what's going to happen is this is where things get funky. The location to check is what? It's my current, it's basically the current AI actor location, okay? And what it's checking is, it is checking the current AI actor location distance to the last enemy location, and it's checking to see if that is greater than the ring index, which in this case should be 1 times the radius. So the ring index should be 1 in this case times the radius, which I believe the ring radius is 200. 200, so that's 200. So this should be this sphere should be a radius of 200. So let's just double check here. Let's put a 200 radius on it and see if it looks to be the same size. Yeah, that looks the same size. Okay. Now what's interesting is he stopped outside the sphere. That's interesting. This time he went inside the sphere. Okay, it's kind of wild. We can reduce this to a much shorter duration. But the point is, our ring radius is working. That's good. So that's 200. So my current location, you know what? Let's put a dot on that too. So let's draw a debug sphere. Again, this one we're going to draw for the enemy. The actual AI we're checking. And we're going to be putting it in a spot. Radius 100 is fine. And this is going to be red to be the color of our enemy, duration of 0.1, thickness of 1. So this sphere, if our location to check is correct, should be our enemy. I'm going to call him the AI because... Alright. Yep. So that is measuring the distance the way we would expect it to. That's great. Alright, so it's checking the enemy's distance to the hero's distance, and it's checking to see if that distance is greater than the 200. It is also checking to see if it is less than 400. So it's checking to see if it's within like a torus. kind of range. All right. And if that's false, it finds a new spot. Interesting. But if it's true, it's going to set the attack position and the move to location. Okay. I want to know. Let's just print string here. I want to know if it thinks it's false or true. Also, we're going to hijack this, and this radius is going to be the second ring, and we're going to make it red, and the location that we're going to check is going to be, are we checking the last enemy location here? Yes, same thing down here. So let's just feed this guy into here. So we should see 2 spheres now. We're going to see the white one, which is the start of what we're looking for, and we're going to be looking at the red one, which is the end. So he should be in a ring around the hero. All right, so if this dude is working properly, he's not, he's stuck. All right, so you can see where he's supposed to go, theoretically. He's supposed to be somewhere in that range of the white to the red, right? But for some reason, this dude is standing inside. I'm also never seeing the false print. Okay, so what's happening is something weird is happening. Oh, well, we didn't put the debug statement in. Oh, we did. Oh, but we put it on the wrong connector. So let's bring this back to find new location, find new spot, and let's put it on here. I want to know if we're coming through here. Okay, so basically it's printing hello. He's always printing hello. This is always failing. And that makes sense because he's not in there. Under what circumstances would it... Okay, so Freeman 7. Under what circumstances would a game designer be interested in the fastest possible time to completion time for some segment of his game? Okay, so there's actually multiple answers to this. Or there's multiple things I can think of that would impact this, and I think it largely depends on the context. So, for example, a lot of times when games, like one example of this, right, is a lot of times when game designers sit down to build out a level or an experience, they're not only are they juggling all of the things about like enemies and abilities that you're using and all those kinds of things, but one of the things that they're also factoring in is how long does it take you to complete a mission or a segment of the game that they're building. And they're very specific in a lot of cases about how long that should take, and there's lots of reasons for that. So one is if you build a dungeon segment that you think is going to take, because you're making a dungeon and you think it's going to take 5 minutes, and then you start running playtests and for some reason everybody's doing it in 20, something's going on. Now, why wouldn't you want your dungeon to take 20 minutes if you're planning on 5? Well, the reason that you might want that is if you were planning on it being 5, you might be targeting that because you're worried about player churn, as an example. You don't want people getting fried or burning out playing your game because it takes 20 minutes to do one particular section. So on the flip side of that, if you're targeting 5 minutes and for some reason it's taking a minute, that's the fastest time that people are getting through, you know, do you have a balancing problem, right? Are you actually hitting your targets? So that is one example of a reason why they might be interested in the fastest time through a game, through a section. It just kind of also depends on the kind of the context. Now, that's just one example that I can think of on the fly. If there's more specifics about that, again, I'm not a professional game designer. I work with some amazing game designers, and fortunately I've learned a lot from them. But that is one case that I have seen where timing is an issue. So hopefully that helps out, Freeman. Okay. So what we were doing was we're printing hello. That's fine. So we're definitely failing this, and that makes sense because the location that we're checking, the distance from the location we're checking, and our hero being that distance needs to be greater than the inner ring and less than the outer ring, but it's not. And so if that's false, we're gonna find a new spot. So let's see what our find new spot is doing. So our find new spot is going through and it's looping through and it's taking the, oh, interesting. Okay, this is never going to find a spot. Okay, so here's part of the problem. This is only looking inside the inner ring. It's not working inside the whole thing. So we actually need to be looking at this +1. And I can actually prove this out to you. Because what's happening, a good way to kind of visually show where this mistake is if we draw another debug sphere here. Okay, this one I'm gonna make blue, and I'm actually going to make it thicker, or make it last longer. Nah, that's not gonna help because let's make it last that, and we'll make it 3 thick so we can see it. And we're going to take and we're going to feed in our radius, and we're going to make the center to be the same. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add 0, which will effectively be the same as what it is right now. And what's going to happen is it's going to fail in the sense that it's going to look for a spot inside that ring. And then when he starts looking again, you can see the white sphere and the blue sphere. Remember, we want to be looking between the white and the red spheres. But right now we're only looking inside this blue sphere to find a new spot. So the problem is we're never going to find a new spot. We're going to try 10 times to find a new spot that's between the red and the blue and we're white. And we're only going to look inside the blue, so we're never going to find it. So we're basically never going to find a spot. So what we really want is we want to look inside the outer ring. And now by adding 1 to that puts the blue line should now be where the red line was, which it is. And now what should happen is when this dude starts to come look for me, he's going to look inside there, and when he goes to find new spots, he's supposed to be looking for spots that are between the white and the red. Now, one of the things that I want to visualize here is I want to visualize what spots are being looked at. So let's connect here. We're going to do, this is our location to check. And what we're going to do is we're going to temporarily feed this in here, this in here. We're going to keep our radius, our duration. So this should create, actually no, we'll make our radius smaller. Let's just make our radius 50. So we're going to actually go ahead and keep everything else. And this should put blue spheres on the ground everywhere the character's looking to check. Well, honestly, right now, I'm not sure why this is not working, but we'll figure it out. Okay, holy cow, dude, I just need to... Of all of those spheres that it's checking, so what I was concerned about was it wasn't actually checking to see if there were spots that were in between the red and the white, which it is. It's clearly looking within red and white, but for some reason he's not picking those spots yet. So we got to continue our debugging journey. So free minute 7 is asking, have you ever used or seen the use of formal methods to prove things about game design? Examples. It is possible to complete. It is impossible to get stuck. There is no way to get out of bounds of the game world. Hold on, let me read that question again. It is possible. I'm trying to wrap my head around this question. Formal methods to prove things out about game design. So it is possible to complete. I mean, what would be the form? I mean, generally speaking, a game designer sits down to hopefully to create a level that is possible to complete. It is impossible to get stuck. Again, I think that's one of those goals that they're generally you're striving for, and there is no getting out of bounds in the game world. So a couple of these things I don't necessarily think are specifically game design. Some of them might be factored into level design, as well as just the technicality of how the game is set up and structured. But not getting stuck and getting out of bounds in the game world, I would think that those two things are just general. That's what you're looking for when you're having people QA and test the game, right? Now, it is possible to complete. Again, I'm trying to think. I guess I think it's I would be hard pressed, and again, I'm not a professional game designer, but I would be hard pressed to or I would be very surprised to have a game designer who the conversation went, I'm going to build a level that's impossible to beat. I've never heard. That doesn't seem like that seems very trolly. I've never heard that in many years of this. Now, it's impossible to complete if you don't have this item. That's different, right? You cannot get through this door if you don't have the key. That's different. But just a flat out, it is possible to complete, I think, is a general goal. Now, the parameters around what it is that allows you to complete that, those are different things. And is it possible that they're you have to have this key, and then accidentally, for some reason, the player somehow missed the spot where they were supposed to get the key, and now they're stuck there? That is something that I would throw into QA design. What is going to happen, those things, and those things would get flushed out as part of testing, I would hope. I'm not sure if that totally answers that question, but hopefully that helps. Okay, so we are definitely seeing those blue spheres. They are definitely there, but for some reason we're not picking one of those blue spheres to go to. So we're setting that. Now, here's what we're doing after this, immediately after this. And we don't have a false here, which I'm already kind of wait a minute, that looks suspect. So we're taking the last enemy location. We're taking this new location to check, and we're checking to see if the distance from that is greater than the ring index -1. It's not. It can't be, because that's going to give us, it can be, but what this is doing is now this is giving us the blue spheres that are inside the red spheres. So that's not what we want. To prove it out, let's just go ahead and do that. We'll make it so it's not -1. And when we come out here, same thing, we're going to see a whole myriad of blue spheres. Interesting. He is not moving to that spot at all, so I guess my theory is bogus. Is the distance from the location to check to the last enemy location, is it greater than local ring index? That should be true. Hold on a second. Local ring index. This is just used for us to test multiple spots. The local ring index should be whatever came out of this. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to take these spheres, this whole bit. Oh, undo. And I'm just going to take this part out. Let's just get rid of this. Okay. And then down here, when we were drawing the red one, I'm actually going to get rid of this red one as well. And I'm going to repurpose all of this stuff. Alright, so the blue spheres at this point is where we're checking. What I also want to do at this point is I want to also draw our rings. So let's draw a debug. Well, I wonder what a debug circle is going to do. You know what? Let's see what this does. We're going to draw the debug circle around the last enemy location. Here's our center of our circle. Duration of 0.1. Our thickness is going to be 1. Our y-axis, sure, let's see. And then our radius is going to be this distance. Local ring index times this, so this should be one of our spheres. And then we're going to do another one, and we'll make this the red one because the red was the inside one last time. And then what we'll do is we will, same thing, we'll use this as our center. Our radius this time is going to be this, plus 1 times the ring radius, and that's going to be our radius. Number of segments, duration, thickness. Let's go 1 and 1. All right, let's play and see if that doesn't work. We'll switch to cylinders or something. Yeah, that doesn't work because look, first off, the axis is wrong, and that's just not going to work. So let's do, let's draw a debug. Let's go back to our spheres. They work. Center, radius, and come into there. Line color's red again. Duration 1, thickness 1. Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing again here. Center's the same. Radius is the same. Okay, so free minute. 7. Well, the fact that you didn't understand the word formal methods kind of did. Kind of did what? An obvious way to check whether a level is completable would be to have AI play all levels overnight, so even when geometry physics changes, all levels are still known to work. Yeah, but I mean, well, but again, what we're talking about there is QA, right? So there are many ways to do QA. You can have play testers, you can have your AI test and things like that, but also there's a lot of reasons why AI may not be able to complete your level as well. Generally speaking though, for example, the QA for any particular phase or part of a game, a lot of times like some of the best QA people I've seen, they have absolute plans. They have you know, testing schedules, what it is they're looking for, you know, debug logging, the triage methods, everything is, you know, it's kind of like a formal documented process that they'll put together for QA. But that's not even necessarily just game design either, though. I mean, there's like even the tools you use and regression testing, all kinds of stuff. Like unit testing even. Like for example, right now, if we were to try to have my AI prove out and test my level, that would not go so well based on the progress so far. Okay, so let's make this one, I believe the outer circle was red in this case, so the inner circle should be white. We'll go there, and we can get rid of these two debugs, and we'll come in here. Alright, so now we should have our debug spheres back. Durations, thicknesses, and radius should all be good. Thanks for stopping in, Free Minute. Have a great night. Okay, so I'm happy with the fact that I believe that this character is looking in the correct radius, right? We have the white and the red spheres, they match what we were looking at previously. We have a bunch of blue points. For some reason, the character, and even those blue points look like they should be within the radius. For some reason, that dude is not navigating. Oh, morning there in Europe. Where in Europe? Good morning then. Let's see here. So for some reason, this dude's taking this location to check, and if the distance, well, let's see here. Are we even, let's see if we're even getting here. Debug. No, print string. We'll print hello. Okay, it's definitely getting there. So that's not the problem. So we're checking to see if the location to check, the distance from that to our last enemy location is greater than the initial ring radius. And we also want to look at the last one. If it is, if that's true, then we're checking to see if it's less than. Okay, so here's our problem, I think. So we're checking to see if we're greater than this one, and then we're checking to see if we're less than this one. Morning hero. Everywhere in Spain. So hablas español entonces. I love that you're from everywhere in Spain. That's awesome. Good morning, Spain. All right. So let's see here. This first one, we're now testing the right thing. The second one, technically what we want to be testing is the ring index +1. All right. And when we do that, now what should happen is it should test +1. But we don't actually need to do this. We don't need these two branch statements. We can do this all at once with an and. So if this works, we'll go back and clean that up. All right, where is this guy? So he is moving to points. All right. He's definitely moving again. But he seems very confused. Look at this. So either he's just not getting the time to get to the points or something. So let's do this. This task, this update current attack position, let's just give this a little bit of room to breathe. Where was that? We're over here. We come in. Here's our update current task position, current attack position. Here's another one. I'm curious which one we're hitting. So we'll just go ahead and quick play. And then let's just kind of watch And this is why I took out the enemy's ability to actually attack. Because the problem was, when he was attacking, he'd be killing me while I was trying to debug this. Alright, so now we can go back here and we can watch this blueprint. It's basically pinging on this update current attack position and move to. And the reason is, we have line of sight, we're forcing success, we're moving to it. Then while we're doing that, we're updating our current attack position and we're using the last known task from target. Interesting. So there's a couple things about this. One, I want to just test. So let's just add a decorator and let's call it cooldown. And let's just give it 2 seconds. Should be same stuff, but it should only do that now every 2 seconds. So let's just see if he has time to get to where he's going now. He's getting there. Okay, so that's kind of working. I want to make this 4 seconds though. And then let's see what's happening. Alright. Where are you going, dude? One. Okay. So it's basically skipping this. But we're still doing our move 2. Then we update. Interesting. There's a couple things that I'm thinking about this, right? So the whole idea of this is this move 2 happens, like we basically find an attack position, then we're going to move to it. And the whole point of this whole separate section here is that while we're moving to the attack position, what happens if the hero moves? We don't want this dude to just blindly keep going to the last location, especially when he's sitting there looking at the hero. I mean, he knows exactly where he is. He's looking right at him and it just makes him look dumb. So the idea behind this was, if in the middle of the move 2, the enemy moves, or in this case the hero, because the enemy of the AI is the hero, then what's going to happen is we're going to re-update our attack position. So really what we want to do here is, there's a couple things we could do. We could say, only do this if the hero's moving. That's one thing. I don't know if I totally like that. But what we can definitely do is clean this up now. We can take out all of our debug stuff, which is good. And the other thing that we can do is, because these are both, we're basically just testing trues, we can combine these two into an and. And when we do that, we can just now have a single branch statement. So clean this up a bit, and then this will plug in to here. Cool. And this is going to update. Right now I'm updating attack position and move to location, but we're trying to only use move to location. So this will update our move to location. But what we don't want to do is, we don't want to do that if our enemy is not moving. Or in this case, the hero. The enemy of the AI is not moving. So last enemy location. How often does that get updated is kind of part of the question, and then what we're going to do is based on that, you know, maybe we can use that to determine whether or not the enemy is moving. Okay, so last enemy location. We can check to see if that's moving or not, or we can put a cooldown on it. Either way, it's going to come in here and then it's going to update that spot. We just don't want to do this if I know what we don't want to do. Okay, there's another way to do this. Okay, what's happening is our already in position is failing. Okay, so so our location to check, the location that we're checking as we started is the current actor location, okay? And so what we want to happen is when we come in here, if we're already in the ring, just don't find a new spot. That's where the problem, that's where this breakdown's happening. Okay, so if the location check, which is our current location, versus the enemy, if that distance is greater than the first ring and less than the second ring, that's true, then we're gonna come in here and do this branch. All right, now this is where what's happening here. Move to location, distance from that to the last enemy is less than the ring index. So that's always failing. I don't think I want to do, I don't even think we want to do this at all. I want to just do this. Okay, let's see. I'm not sure why we had that in there. Okay, so he's gonna come. He's stuck. All right, let's put a breakpoint right here. Actually, let's just put the breakpoint here. But let me just see. We're stuck in the current attack position and the move to. So let's just put a breakpoint here. And let's just trace this. Okay, so we're going to come in. We're going to. We're not ranged, so that's our ring start. That's fine. Ring index. Sphere overlap actors. That should all be false. So we're going to break out. Now, the first thing that should happen is this should be true because we should be in a spot, which it is. And the location that we're checking is our current move to location, which is our current position. Wait. Okay. And so then it's setting it. I don't know about you all, but I don't think that looks like that's within the radius of those two rings. So here we go again. Let's redraw those rings. Here's our first ring. White was the inside. Duration of 1. Thickness of 1. Copy that, fill it in, fill that in. Our second radius is going to be this guy. Our center is going to be the same thing. Color is going to be red. That's going to be our outer radius, 1 and 1. Cool. All right, we can kill the breakpoint for now. All right, so He went over there. I'm not there. Okay, so here's the new one. Okay. Actually, he is within that ring. And what's happening is switching between fight melee. I can't see what it's switching between, but that's working actually now, which is interesting. He's switching between fight melee and what? Strategize. That's what's happening. Okay, that's cool. This is all now working the way we intended. The only problem is that the distance that the character is moving to is not close enough for melee. So all that we were doing with the attack positioning needs to start at a different index. And so what we want to do if we're melee, let's try starting rather than ring 1, we'll start with ring 0 if we're melee. See if we can't, if that simple change, theoretically, this is why we variabilize everything, should make it so that he goes inside. Okay, there's something else I want you to notice too. When he's stuck. That's something else we'll have to fix. Okay. He's Berserker. So he's going to come in. But he's not inside the inner ring. Okay. What the heck is going on? So this is the ring start index. So we're going from 0 to 10. Ring radius. This is where we're oh, interesting. Why is that? Our inner ring should be the white ring should be 0 at this point, because our local ring index should be 0 to start with. Hold on. We start with the ring start index. If it should be 0, because we're not ranged. And we're going to start from 0, and we're going to take that radius. We're going to overlap apticers, which there shouldn't be any. And if it's greater than we do, if it's false, we come back and we break out. So when we break out, our local ring index should be 0. Just double check. It's 1. How's it getting to be 1? I'm missing something. We're setting the ring index, local ring index. Oh, interesting. Wait a minute. It's printed here. And let's make sure it's a different color so we know which one's which. So the pink one is what it is when it starts. Does it change from 0 to 1? Yeah, it's 0. Where's that getting incremented? Hey, buddy. It's definitely getting incremented. So we come in. That's our ring start index. We come in, we set our overlaps. Is the length greater than or equal to the max per ring times the index? Oh, okay. So the problem is the max per ring times the first index is 0. And it's greater than or equal to. So it's always going to be 0. So it's, gosh, Lee Day. This whole 0-based game is fun. Okay. So if we go back to 1, I don't know if that's what we want to do though. We're starting with a 1 based index. And then we're coming in, we're doing our max. This test is proceeding. I think all we have to do is subtract 1 off of our ring index. Oh, yeah, undo. Wait, local ring index. Local ring index. Minus. So this should move them inside. Yeah, see, we're not even getting the white sphere anymore. He's still not inside the sphere. Oh my goodness, man. What a pain in the butt this is. Okay, so here's our local ring index. What is printing there? 0. It's clearly printing 0. But he's not going inside that ring. We're drawing the white sphere. The white sphere is 0 based, so there's nothing, right? It's right at the origin. The red one's the outer. Oh, that's not what we want. Wait, is that what we... Hold on a second. Yeah, the red is the outer. That's fine. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to find a new spot. And when we find the new spot, we're going from the ring start index. Why are we adding 1 to the local ring index? Oh, because if we don't, we get a 0. Oh no, that's what we want. So if it's 0, it's gonna be 1. That's the ring radius. That's gonna get random locations. And then, but we're starting at 1, so we're not... I don't think we need this, because we can do... This is just to give us 10 spots, right? So let's make sure it's drawing our debug spheres. In this case, we were using blue. We want to make sure that those are inside the red circle. Yep, there were 3 spots inside that red circle. Now he's not moving again because he's not in the red circle. I mean, he's already in it. Okay, I mean, he's going to spots inside the red circle. I think that's working. Okay, great. So he is going inside that red circle now. That's great. Okay, now we can go back. You know what? Let's just do this and this. And then we'll go back, and we had a cooldown on this. Let's take the cooldown off. See if he freaks out now. Nope, that's good. That's what we want. We don't want him running around. If he's already in position, we want him to stay in position. Oh my goodness. I think we are finally starting to get there just as we're getting towards the end of this. This is great. So let's get rid of, or no, before we get rid of anything, let's go back and do max per ring is 1, and let's spawn 4 people. Okay. And so when we do that, what we should technically see is everybody stacking up. Well, it's actually going to be based on a multiplier. So we got 4 people, and they should spread themselves out between the ring. Settle into kind of a state of equilibrium. Now the first ring, the max per ring is 1 times the ring index. So that's 1. The second ring, the max should be 2. What's interesting is they're not really, I'm expecting them to settle, right? I want them to settle. They should reach a state of equilibrium, and the fact that they're not doing that, oh, I know why. Well, I know at least one reason why. So what's happening is this first guy, all right, the first guy that comes in, you can see how he's not moving. But what happens is that second dude, if he accidentally passes through this first circle, what's going to happen is it's going to update the number of people that they think is within that area. And so that's going to cause the first guy to move. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So we'll wait till the first guy gets to a state of equilibrium. He's there. He's not moving. That's great. Now these other 3 jokers are moving around. He just bumped inside that first sphere. So now the first guy has to move because he's also checking. The 2 of them are fighting for who's supposed to be there, and as a result of that, that's making them move around. So now that the one dude's out, this should settle into a state of equilibrium. Everybody is within their own ring. This is working. There's just this weird thing that we gotta fix where if people are passing through each other, as far as the distance stuff is concerned. So I think that's something that I'll work either on during our duration during our off time, or maybe we'll go into that again on Wednesday morning. But as usual, thank you so much for hopping in. For those that hopped in, if you have any questions that you'd like us to kind of talk about a little bit or share, etc., that's why we're here. We're stumbling through this together. We're working on the cool stuff that we don't get to do during the day job, and we'll go from there. So have a great week, everybody. I will catch you all Wednesday morning. Later.